And when you look at organizations with billions of spend that's going basically through spreadsheets, the world's most popular software, Excel, Word documents, scan signed PDF, SOWs, emails, phone calls, Teams, Slack, that's not up with the times. That's severely old school and very limited.
Well, and it's not. It doesn't suit the need for your executives to have instant access to that information and the level of information to make strategic decisions, right? I mean, you cannot make strategic decisions around your suppliers, around your services that you're providing, if you don't have that level of information easily, readily at your fingerprints, right, at your hand. And so I think I agree with you. We're seeing a lot. I was looking at a lot of the RFPs that we've been responding to and the work coming in, and most companies now, are asking about some kind of component of services procurement. How do you manage it? Even if it might not be the focus of what they're trying to buy at this point, they want to ensure that they have that capability as maybe a phase 2 or a gen 2, right after something comes in. So.
Yeah, and I would very much encourage any organizations that are even considering or looking at trying to address this, they're worried about it, to talk to people like yourself who've been there and done it, even if they're not in a position where they're looking to buy something now, just to understand. Because, and that's why I really value you taking the time to have this conversation, because it's just spreading the word. It's just the art of the possible, putting it out there in terms of the hurdles, the ability to overcome those hurdles, where this can all go, what the benefits are, the business case implications. People just need to share this information, and it's, companies don't have to be competitive about it. It's information that, procurement experts can share with each other, the industry can share with each other, and there's opportunity for everyone. It's such a big problem to solve, and it benefits everybody involved in the chain. There's nobody that loses. It benefits the workforce solutions industry with this additional growth. It benefits the organizations that are being served by that in terms of their savings, their efficiency, their market readiness. And it benefits the supply chain as well, because they're getting recognized for the good work they do. They're working through more efficient processes. And you mentioned that, how can the organization make strategic decisions around spend when they can't see what's going on and what the performance is, things like that. It's also that, exec team within an organization saying, effectively, this is all the work we need to do in the next 6 months. How are we going to do it? How are we going to apportion it? What's going to be the best way to do these different bits of work? If you're not efficient at doing that, you're gonna lose out to people that are, and that's where this is a little bit of an arms race of organizations in the same sectors saying we need to pull our socks up in this area and really get organized. And when they do that, anyone that isn't is going to get left behind. And that's where the AI side of it comes in again, just in terms of the pace of change. But I feel like people are waking up to that. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And that's why we're seeing, I think, that uptick, right? We're seeing a lot of more focus on services procurement of, well, how do we manage this better? To your point, how do we go to more outcome based versus T&M? How do we shift the risk from our company to the supplier providing the service, right? That's the whole idea really behind outcome based deliverables is, I want a product. I want you to create this for me, and I want you to do it well. And historically, we've done some of that. Some of that's happened, but it's not, the performance aspect of it isn't managed from that supplier. So you talk about like that 6-month runway. How do you get work done and these projects done? If you don't have that visibility, you're really working towards, all right, so John, who have you worked with before? All right, let's use them. Like they've done work for us. They know our product. Great. But you don't really know if that outcome, that supplier has been providing the best outcome. You don't know if they've been providing the best price because you don't have that visibility into that information. And so, well, to your point, either they get left behind or they might get a product that's not the best that it could be at a price that they did not want to pay to begin with.
Yeah. And looking at that from the kind of supplier performance angle, if you there's the other side of it as well, where there's competition for the best suppliers. There's competition for that expertise and those capabilities, and it's new capabilities are being required all the time. You know, technology change is almost, arithmetic, and its growth is exponential. So the requirement, new capabilities, new skills, new things required, is just moving at such a crazy pace. Where organizations have a good relationship with their supply chain, that makes it better. And putting one of these programs in place and using the right technology to centralize information makes that better. But it also gives you visibility of the capabilities you have in your supply chain and the ability to then build on that and look at, I've spoken about it before, some of the companies we work with do a lot of what I would class as horizon planning. What are the type of capabilities we going to need in the future? Who in our supply chain has got those? Let's look at that, and then maybe they'll start upskilling themselves where they don't have it. But let's work together in a really close collaboration with our supply chain. And I think that competition, it's only going to get more fierce, a little bit like we've had the kind of war for talent within the broader workforce.
No, you're not wrong. I look at that view into your workforce and the capabilities. You know, a company like mine or in the vendor management system, historically, you don't have that view into your gaps, right? If you're not managing all of those suppliers and you know who you have and you know who you're working with and you know the strengths, like you do typically you do for your workforce, but beyond that, from your supplier setup, you don't know who has the strengths, who's performed the best, where, it often becomes a firefight to find somebody quickly when you find out there is a gap.
Yeah, just I just want to go back to something that you were saying earlier that I thought was really interesting. When you were talking about procurement bringing in an MSP to enable them to put this full end-to-end services procurement offering or program management in place. One of the things that you brought up, which I think is really interesting, is the disconnect that quite often exists between procurement and the downstream post-contract activity within services procurement, because quite often procurement are not really measured or judged or involved. As you say, they throw it back over the fence once the statement of work is signed. Back it goes to the business stakeholder, and then it's like whatever happens downstream happens. And if there's a risk issue or there's a cost issue or there's a delivery issue, generally procurement hear about it, it's too late. It's done, it's retrospective, it's a post-mortem, and it's very difficult then. If it's not in a system and if it's not in a program, it's practically almost impossible to go back and really dig up why that happened and what can be done about it in future. But I thought the not looking at the downstream side was really interesting, because I would also argue that when it comes to services procurement, most organizations don't have the upstream really covered very effectively, in the sense that there's so much direct awarding going on and there's too many statements of work. So procurement, if it's not captured in a system and within a program, procurement just cannot get their arms around it. So although procurement will be judged on the upstream, are we to budget, which stakeholders will be very good at being to budget, but they might be wasting the budget.
Yep. I can't tell you how often we were in the crunch of, well, I've got $1 million left in my budget. I've got to spend it, or else I don't get that same budget next year. So to your point, that upstream becomes much harder to be involved in. And there's such a bigger benefit if you can get it in as part of that upstream, either just from a procurement professional, being a strategic partner, being part of that initial conversation of who do you use, where do they come? Because so often a business stakeholder has already gotten a copy of the SOW that the supplier prepared for them with a price that they've already agreed to because it's within their budget, right? And so there's, and they say, oh, well, we've been doing this service for you for 2 years now. Johnny's been working with you on this service for 2 years. We really need to change his price to $220 an hour versus the $190, because we've been promoting him internally. So they try to pass that cost back to you, when it's like, well, no, it's the same service that you're providing me. If you're paying him more, that's your problem. So from a supplier perspective, but your business stakeholders are like, yeah, it's in my budget, I don't care. So they'll agree to a price increase, which now becomes your new floor for that service, when it's really something that somebody should be paying significantly less for.